how is culture starting to affect the customer? How is it starting to affect the client? And that relationship as being a differentiator, a tool. We always say, doing good is good business. But how do you describe that? How do you see that working in the future?
I would hope that who you are on the inside is who you project to be on the outside as well. I mean, I think that, there are some organizations I've worked with that they were hoping for a certain perception on the outside, and what they were on the inside didn't match what that was. And so there was the struggle because there was a dissonance between who we are and who we want to be. So if we can define what our culture is on who we are versus who we want to be, it's going to be easier because then you're authentically you. You're not putting up a front for something that you're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So.
And I think that businesses want to do business with folks who care. I think that's just pretty inherent. And so it's important, at least for my organization, that we show up in the community as well as for our colleagues. And we want to do that because we really care, but we also believe it's going to attract the right partners and who we want to do business with. And knowing your organization, I think you guys share those values.
Right. It's connecting that heart and the mind. And if we can do that amongst our teammates, it's just that abundance that is given to our clients as a gift.
Yeah. And it changes the dynamic of a community as well, because now when you have businesses that are acting and operating righteously, you have people in those businesses that are being taken care of. They get to go home to families that are being taken care of with people who are fulfilled and have that energy. How are you guys finding the relationship between organizations, the people in them, and their families as a part of that equation?
We involve families as much as we can. It's our number one value is family. And that can take lots of different twists and turns when you go to define that. Yeah. But it's how we show up for our work family and for those in our home family. And with the disasters that we've experienced recently, you can see that being illustrated without thinking. That is how we, no kidding, every day show up for each other. We've got each other's back. And it makes me proud to say that we're a part of such a great community.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely agree with that. One of our core ways of doing business and culture is flexibility. And for our team members, now that school started, lots of team members with kiddos have football or soccer or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you name it. They want to leave early and get to those activities. Or they want to take a long weekend to go travel and see family. That's part of the reason why I've been working here for a decade, because I know my employer cares about my well-being outside of my role in my office, and that really feels good. And I think a lot of people are motivated, the 110 employees on 6th floor Sharapa, because they know they're cared about, whether they're going through a family situation, an illness, a disaster. That's going to show up first. The work will get done.
Yeah.
That's so refreshing that you encourage your employees, and that's part of your culture, to say, hey, you know what, we are a whole self person. Mm-hmm. Don't check your momness at the door. Don't check your dadness at the door. Don't check what's going on at home at the door, because if you leave part of that somewhere else, you don't bring your whole self to work. So kudos to organizations that really take that and live it out. A lot of organizations might say that that's what they do, but to really see it in action, something.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Now, luckily, you all work for organizations that get it, or work with organizations that tend to get it. Not everybody gets it. So let me ask you this. Magic wand, what is that one thing that you would change in those type of organizations? What's that thing that you just think is that thing that'll get them down that road? I mean,
what's
there's always
the tipping point?
Yeah, what's the tipping point? What is that trigger?
I think it's each individual.
Yeah.
And it's really, do you have a victim mindset or do you have a victorious mindset? And that's everything from onboarding someone to how we take care of them at every stage during their leader life cycle. What are we doing to invest in them? But then this is a two-way relationship, right? So then what are you also, how are you seeing yourself committed to the vision, to the dream of which we're going, and connecting with that. I think in the past, the gift of birthdays, right? So we've had some time to see other organizations function and to know what you want and you don't want, right? Mm-hmm. And to be very committed and dedicated towards that. And so trying to bring others along so that you can also be called out when you fall into a victim mindset. We're human, right? It can happen. But if I were to wave a magic wand to help others see they too can choose to be victorious in situations where they may feel powerless. They have a voice.
I believe the magic wand is putting people first before business. And I really think if you put your people first, your business is going to win. And I think some business owners, business leaders are very hesitant about that because they want to put their business first because that's what should get them to win. But I think it's the flip side. So my magic wand would be trust your people, invest in your people, believe in your people, empower your people, and your business is going to win.
Yeah.
If I were to wave that magic wand, I'm really preaching about courage right now. Because I think what you're talking about and what you're talking about, the underlying piece of that is that leaders have to have more courage to stay in the messy middle, to go after fears and feelings instead of unproductive behavior, because there are reasons why if people aren't productive in what they're doing, there's something under that. And so for leaders to say and be vulnerable, whether it be I don't know it all or I want to listen to you, and just stay in those harder conversations, imagine how organizations could change if everybody showed up, had tough conversations, and were willing to stick in it and not tap out when stuff got hard.
Yeah, that's big.
I'm going to take two words from what you just said, but that courageous vulnerability. Right, none of us are above or beyond that, and everything.
And they go together.
To stay in that.
And they go together. I mean, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah, very good. Well, so the other component is how we're bringing people in, right? Generally, your biggest expense, which is workforce, should also be your biggest investment. Mm-hmm. And we tend to believe in Think 3D. In order for you to be able to hire. You can't hire who you want if you're busy hiring who you need, right? And that recruitment is built in through, kind of retention. But it's also about how we attract it. So how do you live that out? How do you put it out there? We normally do an exercise with leaders when we're dealing with organizations. And what we do is we ask them, what are the most important attributes that you would want in somebody that you would work for, work with, or have work for you? And they usually say things like honor and integrity and empathy and trustworthiness and all those type of things. And then what we do is we pull up one of their job descriptions and we say, how many of those words are in this? Mm-hmm. And there's usually 0. And so we always ask them, why are you surprised that you're not getting who you want when that's not who you're asking for? So how can organizations do a better job of putting that particular part out there to make sure they're attracting the right people to begin with?
I lead our internship program, thinking about recruitment, and it's something that I am really excited and inspired by. And you can't attract the kind of talent you want with just a piece of paper, just a job posting. You've got to get out there in the community. The way we do it is a lot through college and university, but definitely just having one-on-one conversations with individuals. We use social media a lot to show what our employer brand is, not just our industry expertise, but who we are as an employer. So I think finding ways to communicate in your geography where you're trying to seek employees is a great tool to use, and not just using that recruitment tool, your website, but really sending out people as an army to help find the talent and to find ways to tell your story. One of the biggest humbling moments for me is when I meet someone and they tell me, I've heard so many good things about your firm, and I know this about your firm. And a lot of that is hopefully because the folks that we work with are sharing that. But my other hope is our employees love where they work, and they go talk about it as well. So really departing the message in multiple ways, and finding ways to tell your story separate from just the job site and the application.
Yeah. Very good.
Well, and I'm going to piggyback on that because I know you do an excellent job at telling the story through your internships. It's an impressive way to be able to give them an inside look of think of what it would be like if we could live this way together, right? If you could be a part of this team. And so I'm impressed by that, the way in which you're able to do that. I think telling your story and helping your leaders tell it in a way that attracts all the different generations and cross multiplies, because then they tell their story. And we begin having this movement of good news, right? When they speak of our organizations, they're speaking of how they live their life. It's not a job, it's a place where you get to be. You get to learn, live, and grow, right? And I'll just kudos to your organization, because first you think of how awesome the culture is, and then they're my trusted partner when it comes to strategy around all that we do. So.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that. And it is a discipline.
It is.
I mean, it really is. You've got to keep it on the front burner and keep your eye on it, because it is not something that just happens haphazardly. It is really intentional, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.